The first time the Jarithi Grand Assembly saw me, the chamber went silent. Not the polite silence of diplomacy, but the dangerous kind. The kind where hundreds of alien minds recalculated reality at once. I stood alone on the obsidian platform, hands visible, heart pounding so hard I was certain the translators embedded behind my ears would pick it up as interference. Around me rose the concentric tiers of the assembly. Mantis lords with crystalline eyes, avian diplomats wrapped in gravity silk cloaks, aquatic thinkers suspended in shimmering tanks of breathable gel. This was the highest governing body of the coalition of 13 species. And I was the only human. Earth had joined the coalition only 3 cycles ago, not as an equal power, but as a curiosity, an unpredictable, stubborn species from a low-tier system that had somehow survived its own self-destruction phase. My job was simple on paper. Cultural liaison, conflict mediator, professional translator of intent. In practice, I was a disposable variable. At the center dais stood High Matriarch Esalen of the Jarithi. Towering, six-limbed, her chitin gleaming like molten gold beneath the chamber lights. Her species ruled through dominance displays and possession rights, concepts Earth diplomats still struggled to fully understand. I had spoken to her only twice before. Each time, her attention felt like standing under a collapsing star. Now her multifaceted eyes fixed on me again. The human envoy, Esalen said, her voice resonating through bone and air alike. You will explain your species' refusal. I swallowed. High Matriarch, Earth cannot sign the extraction accord as written. It would destabilize our planetary ecosystems and... A hiss rippled through the chamber. Refusal was not a word often spoken here. Esalen stepped forward, her shadow stretching across the platform until it engulfed me. I fought the instinct to step back. Humans retreating was interpreted as weakness. Weakness invited ownership. So, she said softly, dangerously, the human defies us. Before I could answer, something unexpected happened. She raised one massive limb and pointed directly at me. The motion triggered a flurry of alarms, translation subroutines scrambling, ancient protocols waking from dormancy. Then she spoke the words that would echo across the coalition. The human belongs to me. The chamber erupted. Delegates shouted, flared bioluminescence, discharged phenomenal outrage. Ownership declarations had not been made in the assembly for over 500 cycles. They were relics of a brutal era, outlawed but still recognized. My blood ran cold. Belongs? I turned, searching for any sign that this was a mistranslation. The interface confirmed it with brutal clarity. Claim of protective dominion, active. Esalen's gaze never left me. He stands under my authority, she continued. His life, his words, his presence are now bound to my will. Any who challenge him challenge me. I felt the weight of it settle like chains I couldn't see. The Jarithi believed in possession as responsibility. To claim was to protect. To protect was to control. And I had just been claimed by one of the most powerful beings in known space. The assembly recessed in chaos. Within hours, I was escorted, not imprisoned, not freed, to Esalen's personal citadel ship. Vast halls curved like living architecture around me, walls pulsing faintly as if the ship itself breathed. You should fear me, she said as we walked, her voice quieter now. Your species fears ownership. We don't exactly thrive under it. I replied carefully. She paused, turned, studied me. You stood before the assembly knowing you could be erased, she said. Yet you refused. That is not weakness. I met her gaze. It's survival. A clicking sound escaped her throat. Jarithi amusement. Then understand this, human, she said. I claimed you not to cage you, but to stop the others from doing worse. That was when I realized the truth. If SLN hadn't claimed me, someone else would have. The extraction accord was only the beginning. Earth's resources, human adaptability, our emotional resilience, these were assets older species coveted. By claiming me, she had drawn a line no one dared cross. Days passed, then weeks. I learned the rhythms of her ship, the customs of her people. She questioned me endlessly, not just about Earth's technologies, but our art, our music, our concept of choice. In return, I learned about the Jarithi collapse centuries ago. How unchecked dominance had nearly destroyed them. How modern matriarchs were bound by law to temper possession with consent. You could release me, I said one cycle, standing beside a viewport overlooking a dying star. I could, she agreed. But you won't. No, she said simply. Because you choose to stay. The words startled me. She noticed. In my culture, Aslan said, true belonging cannot be forced. The declaration only opens the door. You have not walked away. I thought of Earth, of politics that moved too slowly, of a galaxy that did not wait for consensus. I'm here because someone needs to be, I said. Someone who understands both sides. Her eyes softened, a terrifying thing on a creature built for conquest. Then the real crisis came. A rogue coalition faction attacked Earth's outer colonies, using the unsigned accord as justification. Ships burned. Communications fractured. The assembly reconvened in emergency session. This time, SLN did not point at me. She gestured for me to stand beside her. Speak, she commanded. Not as mine, but as yourself. I addressed the galaxy. I spoke of mutual survival, of how humanity's refusal was not defiance, but foresight, of how domination without understanding only sowed future wars. And when the session ended, the coalition voted, not unanimously but decisively, to suspend the accord. Earth was safe. Afterward, in the quiet of her citadel, SLN removed the sigil of claim from her carapace and placed it in my hands. You are no longer bound, she said. The declaration is void. I looked at the symbol. Ancient, powerful, heavy with meaning. Then I set it gently on the floor between us. Keep it, I said. Not because I belong to you. She tilted her head. But because I choose to stand with you. For a long moment, the matriarch of the Jarithi said nothing. Then she bowed. Not as an owner, but as an equal. Ending. Years later, historians would argue over the moment the galaxy truly changed. Some would say it was the suspension of the extraction accord. Others would claim it was humanity's rise as a diplomatic power. But those who were there remembered something else. They remembered the day an alien matriarch pointed at a human and declared ownership, only to learn, through that human's refusal to be owned, what true alliance meant. And in the end, that choice reshaped the stars. The sky above the citadel fractured into ribbons of light as the ancient engines finally shut down. For the first time in centuries, the alien empire stood silent, not in defeat, but in awakening. The human took one final step forward, not as a subject, not as a weapon, but as proof that choice could break even the oldest chains. Around them, soldiers lowered their weapons, nobles bowed their heads, and the great machine that once decided fate powered down like a dying god. She looked at him then, not with command, not with ownership, but with understanding. Everything she had believed about strength, dominance, and control collapsed in that moment. Humanity's greatest power had never been force. It was refusal. Refusal to kneel. Refusal to hate. Refusal to become what the universe expected. And in that refusal, a new future ignited. Across the stars, treaties were rewritten, borders erased, and species once divided by fear began to listen. The story of the human who walked away became legend, not because he conquered an empire, but because he reminded the galaxy what freedom actually meant. Children would one day learn his name, not as a ruler, but as the spark that ended an age of submission. As the last ships departed and the stars reclaimed their quiet glow, the human turned toward the unknown, knowing the universe would never be the same again. The age of domination was over. The age of choice had begun. And somewhere among the infinite stars, humanity finally stood, equal, unbroken, and free.